everybody, and welcome to a new series for my channel. This time around I'm going to try something a bit different. I'm going to try a Marvel What If. Specifically centered around the MCU, since there are a lot of Marvel properties I could do something on. As some of you may know, I've been trying to diversify my content and make different stuff. One of you guys, Alex Denti, suggested this idea and I loved it. Because I love the MCU and I love Ben 10 so much, so combining the two just seems natural. This series will have 3 parts, at least for now. As the MCU continues into Phase 4, I might make another part. And all 3 parts will come back to back this week, so I do hope you enjoy. Before starting, I want to say that this will only be centering around the story, so there will be no casting choices for most of the characters. Also, I want to say if you guys like this, please be sure to leave a like if you want to see more of this kind of content centered around the MCU. And you can tell me what you want in the comments below or in my Discord, which would actually be encouraged. Now with all that out of the way, let's get started. So, for the beginning, I would give Ben a standalone movie introducing him. The movie would take place end of Phase 2 or beginning of Phase 3, mainly before Captain America Civil War, as he would get a cameo appearance like Spider-Man has in that one. The best way to frame it would be in the Phase 2, right after Ant-Man, as the end of the phase. It would probably be called Ben 10, Wielder of the Omnitrix, or Ben 10, Vilgax Returns, or something of the sort. The movie begins. A black screen. A title appears saying 6 years ago. A van, in this case the rust bucket, is seen. The door opens suddenly, and Ben steps out screaming, "You know what? There's no way of talking to you. I'm going for a walk." Gwen shouts back, "Well, it wasn't my idea to be here either." Ben walks through the woods and looks at the sky. The camera zooms into the sky and a ship is seen shooting at another smaller one. On board of one of the ships, a crewman says, "Lord Vilgax, we seem to have just shot out the main propulsion system. We should be ready to board and take the prize in little time." Vilgax says, "Great. I want to personally see the Uxorite dead within my grasp." In the other ship, Xylene tries all she can to keep going when the control panel short circuits. She shouts out, "Crap!" She opens a secondary system and shooting it back at Vilgax's ship, causing an explosion on the bridge. She says, "That'll only buy me some time." She sends a distress signal, but the ship shuts down, not sending it. She looks back at her cargo and puts it on an escape pod, programs it to only be opened by a man she knows from this planet and to go to him. She then shoots it down to Earth. The ship is then boarded and she is promptly shot by Vilgax's forces. Vilgax, now in a healing vat, is informed that she was killed, but the cargo wasn't on board. Vilgax exclaims, "What? I want that cargo on the ship before the end of the rotation. I can't stand being in this miserable system again." Down on Earth, Ben walks through the woods, kicking a pine cone. He says, "Stupid cousin, this is going to be the worst summer ever with her here." Ben looks up at the stars and sees something moving. He says, "Cool, a shooting star." The star turns, moving towards him. Ben says, "Crap." He starts running as the meteor gets closer. The moment it makes impact with the ground, Ben jumps out of the way. After cooling down for a moment, Ben steps out of some bushes, pulling some sticks from his hair. He looks at the crater and says, "Must be a satellite or something." He moves in to get a closer look. He says, "Some weird satellite." He gets close to the ditch and ends up falling in it. He walks to the satellite to inspect it, with a capsule opening once he gets close enough, detecting his DNA. There he sees a watch with a green glow coming out of it. Ben asks, "A watch? What's a watch doing in outer space?" He extends his hand to grab it, and the watch jumps on, shouting, "Get off! Get off!" He struggles trying to get it off. He shouts, "Grandpa!" and runs towards camp. On the way, he grabs a stick and tries to get it out. He ends up playing with the watch with the dial coming out. Surprised, he says, "Wow!" A silhouette of a man appears on the watch and Ben says, "Cool." He presses the omnitrix with a big flash coming out, enveloping the screen. The Marvel Studios logo animation would then start playing, going through the events of the MCU and ending with a black logo on green. Like the Marvel Studios logo would be black and the background would be green as opposed to red, which is what it usually is. After the logo comes through, it would fade through black and title says 6 years later would come on screen. The camera shot starts on a pinwall filled with a picture of Ben's adventure. The camera shot starts on a pinwall filled with a picture of Ben's adventures. One depicting him fighting Vilgax, one fighting Dr. Animo, one him fighting a mutated Kevin Levin, and a couple of space routines and space road trips, basically depicting 3 summers on a pinwall. The camera moves through the pinwall, going through an open closet that shows the omnitrix mixed in with a bunch of old stuff. The camera keeps moving, eventually showing Ben sleeping. An alarm goes off, waking Ben up. He hits the button and looks at the time, exclaiming, "Oh crap, I'm gonna be late!" He rushes out of bed, grabbing a jacket and a backpack, mainly the Ben 10 jacket, and he heads to school. He leaves the room with the camera seeing a low shot of a soccer ball. There's a transition and the next shot pans out from the ball. It is being kicked by Cash, who is playing soccer. He dribbles the ball, moving ahead into the opponent's territory. Ben jumps, grabbing the ball. Ben's team wins the game, thanks to the save. After the game, Ben quickly changes into his normal clothes and heads out, wanting to grab a smoothie. But outside the door of the changing room, Gwen is waiting for him. Ben, surprised, asks, "What are you doing here?" Gwen answers, "Watching you win the match, of course. I came to support you." "Want a smoothie? I'm buying." Ben says, "Sure." Both of them go to the nearest Mr. Smoothie and start talking. Eventually, Gwen asks, "Are you sure you want to spend your time like that playing soccer and studying? You were one of the greatest superheroes, greater than Iron Man could hope to be." As he takes a sip of his smoothie, Ben says, "I gave that up, Gwen. After what happened, I just couldn't keep going. Even if I got back in the game, I would be very rusty." Gwen says, I get that losing feedback hurt you. I'm sure Grandpa Max could use your help training the new team. After all, S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone now. Earth could use your help." Ben gets up, saying, "Earth has enough heroes." Ben then walks away. The camera pans down, showing a squid in a shop. There is a transition, and we see a planet with coordinates on the lower part of the screen, like in Guardians of the Galaxy. In this case, saying Planet Murray. Next to the planet are 2 ships, intercoiled. One of those being Vilgax's ship. On his ship, a beaten Vilgax walks onto his ship, limping. Siphon walks to him and asks, "Sire, how did the negotiations go?" Vilgax keeps going, finding a seat and sitting, and responds, "They did not go too well, Siphon. The only way he'll spare the inhabitants is if I give him an item of seeks." Siphon asks, "What did he ask for, sire?" "I'm sure whatever he requires can be obtained fairly easily." Vilgax says he asked for an infinity stone. Siphon gasps and says, "An impossible request indeed. They are extremely rare to find." Vilgax says he also gave me coordinates. Siphon asks, "Shall I set a course then?" Vilgax says yes. To Earth. Bax's ship then moves to make a jump. The title then reads, 1 week from now. Vilgax steps through the rubble of a building, passing by an A sign saying A. He just destroyed Avengers facility. He keeps going, passing by destroyed War Machine armor and a broken shield. He walks towards Vision and grabs him by the throat, with some of his soldiers fighting in the background. Vilgax asks, "Any last words, Synthesoid?" Vision says, "You may have won today, but we will be a vet." Vilgax then rips the Infinity Stone off of Vision's forehead, dropping his body on the ground. A red blast is shot at Vilgax. He's levitated upwards. The shot of a gunshot is heard and Scarlet Witch is seen falling to the ground, dead. Vilgax starts walking towards his ship. Suddenly, everything goes gray and time stops flowing. A man wearing a lab coat and some goggles appears. This one would probably be played by either Matt Smith or David Tennant. Because reasons, I have my, well, mainly it's Professor Paradox, and I really like those two as the Doctor. Matt Smith would probably be my pick. He takes off his goggles and taking it up and says, "No, this won't do at all." He then turns around and leaves into a light blue portal. In present day, Ben gets off the bench and says, "Earth has enough heroes." He turns to leave, but before he can, a man wearing the lab coat says, "But I can always use another one." Ben looks at him surprised and asks, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" Paradox says, "I always forget. We haven't met yet." "Well, I have. The name's Professor Paradox. I'm pretty sure that's what you call me, at least." Gwen says, "Wait, Grandpa has a file on him back at the base." Paradox says, "Indeed he does." Ben asks, "What do you want?" Paradox says, "Nothing much. I'm here to deliver a warning. An old friend is coming back, Ben Tennyson. You have encountered and defeated him many times before. And again, you're the only one who stands a chance. If you do not, Earth and humanity will suffer. Good luck." Ben says, "Wait, but Paradox already vanished." Gwen asks, "What exactly just happened?" Ben says, "You want me back in the game? Well, I'm getting back in the game. I think Kevin Levin is back." Ben gets home and grabs the Omnitrix, putting it on. In a hurry, being afraid of what might come. He goes online for a moment and starts researching some things, finding that some old enemies are making moves. Later that night, Ben and Gwen go to an arms deal between the Forever Knights and an unknown seller. They interact a bit with Kevin, testing out the money and the weapons and whatnot. Gwen tries to caution Ben, but Ben doesn't listen to her. He steps out of the shadows, eager to be a hero. Ben asks, "You both ready to surrender?" He then shows the Omnitrix. Kevin asks, "Tennyson?" Ben says, "The one and only." He hits the Omnitrix but doesn't go off. Ben asks, "What now?" The knights point the weapons at Ben. Kevin stops them and says, "He's mine. You guys get out of here." Gwen hits a communicator calling for help and jumps in to try and stop the knights and the sellers from leaving, getting shot at and forced on the defensive. Kevin absorbs some metal from around and strikes at Ben, trying to hit him, but Ben jumps out of the way. Then again and again. This pattern repeats for a bit. He says, "What, are you getting sloppy on me, Kevin? At this rate, I won't need to transform." Kevin gets angry and tries to hit him again. Ben places himself in front of a circuit breaker. When Kevin punches it, Ben evades. Kevin smashes the circuit breaker, electrocuting himself. Ben uses the opportunity to run away and gain some distance, trying to get the Omnitrix to work on the way. The Omnitrix says, "Error. Biometric data unrecognized." Ben asks, "What are you talking about? I'm Ben Tennyson." "Come on, not wearing it for 3 years makes me unrecognizable. I'm 16 now. That's the only difference." The Omnitrix says, "DNA recognized and compatible. Initializing recalibration sequence." Ben stops and asks, "What?" The Omnitrix morphs, changing shape from the classic to the Alien Force Omnitrix. Kevin catches up and tries to hit Ben. Ben jumps forward and rolls on the ground. He gets up and, in a hurry, he opens up and hits the Omnitrix. We would get a transformation sequence, hopefully something good and quick, and he would turn into Spider Monkey. Kevin says, "Finally taking things seriously, huh?" Ben says, "Wah! I guess I am." Goes in for an attack. Ben jumps out of the way. Kevin, while going to attack Ben again, asks, "So what does this guy do?" Ben says, "I don't know." He evades Kevin a couple of times, eventually accidentally shoots a web at Kevin. Ben says, "Ooh, cool, I'm like that spider guy from YouTube." Kevin goes in for another attack. Ben evades and using his tail throws a web at Kevin's eyes, blocking his view. Ben says, "Now let's see what else the new Omnitrix has to offer." Ben hits the Omnitrix symbol on his chest, turning into Humongosaur, and he says, "Cool." He then smashes Kevin, knocking him out. Ben then rushes to take care of the knights in the cellar. When he gets back to where they were, he finds that Max and his team have captured the Forever Knights, although the cellar got away. Ben exclaims, "You called them?" Gwen says, "I couldn't just take them down the whole group by myself, Ben." Max says, "We need to talk, kiddo." Anyway, that's where I'm leaving this part for today. This would not be the end of the first movie, would be pretty much the halfway point. I'm going to be continuing the second half in the second part, which is the next episode, and then the one after that would be how he fits into the MCU as a whole, pretty much an overview of him in Civil War, a bit how Captain Marvel would change with them in the universe, Endgame, and Infinity War. I do hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was harder to write than usual because I have to come up with a story even though I'm utilizing a lot of previous Ben 10 elements. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit that like button or tell me in the comments below. Again, if you like this and want to see more MCU stuff, hit that like button and tell me what you want. If I like the idea enough, I will make it. Anyway, until next time, everyone, have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye!